So first I want to thank everybody for coming to my presentation. And then I also want to thank this site for allowing me to be here, not only just to get training and to be able to work, but also allowing me to do the presentation today. This is my senior internship, so I'm graduating in December with my bachelor's in biblical counseling, and then I'm heading on into my master's program, and I'm really excited about that. And in this class, my professor asked me to pick a topic and to do a presentation on it. And the opportunity came up, and I was really glad that it did, because I was struggling a little bit to pick a topic. And Elizabeth, my supervisor, she gave me the opportunity to take this course. It's called Prepare and Enrich, and it is a course that creates a facilitator and couple relationship. And so this course I was able to go through and become a facilitator, and will be operating in this capacity in the future. So today we're going to actually go through and see what this program is all about. So first I just want to read this quote from Prepare and Enrich, and they say, "Marriage is perhaps the most complex and challenging of all human relationships. The joining of two people in a relationship which is intended to last a lifetime and can involve great effort to develop and maintain." This statement is very true. Even before going through the program, I would have said, yes, very true. We are asking two people that have sometimes trauma. They have issues of their own to come together and try to create this unity and this relationship together, even through some of their own struggles. So Prepare and Enrich, as you can see at the bottom, it says they're building strong marriages. And in the society that we live in today, with a 65 to 70% rate of divorce, we need programs like this to help facilitators, therapists to maybe bring couples to a place where they can communicate and get through this thing that we call marriage. All right, so first we're going to talk about what is Prepare and Enrich, the program. So we're just going to go over a couple of facts about it just to get you familiar with what it even is. So it was founded in 1980 by therapist and family science scholar David Olson and his wife Karen Olson. It is evidence-based, which is really good. Gives people the confidence to know that what they're doing isn't just something. It's something that has been tried, it's been true, and it's been evaluated to work. So it's a customized relationship assessment and skill developing program, meaning that we bring the couples either together or separate, and they are doing an assessment online, and then we will take that assessment, evaluate it, bring them back in, and we can give them some skills to work on. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, what that looks like. It was created for not just premarital, but also marital relationships. So that was one of the things that I was really happy to see, was that it was not only just for premarital counseling, but it also for marital marriages. The facilitators are trained to interpret these assessments, and they also walk the couples through the results. So very, very in-depth assessments we'll look at later, and then the facilitators are taught to look at these and be able to interpret them and be able to give it back to the couples in a way that makes sense. The facilitators include counselors, pastors, laymen, coaches, government agencies, and foster care workers. So this is not just a program that is for clinical setting for counselors or therapists, but this can also be used in very non-clinical settings, which I think is really good, because although clinical counseling is very, very appropriate for marriage counseling, sometimes we need others, counselors, can do it, but also pastors, give them some tools to be able to handle the situations that they see in their setting. So the online assessment creates unique and tailored feedback, including recommended exercises from the program workbook. So what that means is we assess, we take the assessments and they create reports, and we take those reports, we read them, we interpret them, and then it also comes with a workbook. So at the end of every assessment, it will give you recommended exercises that come from that unique workbook for each individual couple. So it's very unique in that, is that it's not just a generic, it's very specific for that couple, which I really appreciated that. So the two components of Prepare and Enrich are, number one, it's an online couple assessment, which we talked about. It primes the couple for relevant and revealing discussion. It also identifies strength and growth areas. So one of the things that was brought about through the program was that even just the couple going through the assessment itself was helpful. Then just going through the program and being able to look at the different areas that the assessment assesses really helped them also just beginning to start thinking about these areas. And then number two is feedback and teaching relationship skills. So it teaches communication and conflict resolution, closeness and the flexibility of the couple, personality compatibility, and then stress management, which we know all of those are, if you're married, you quickly realize that those are very relevant to marriage. All right, so what are the areas that Prepare and Enrich assesses? So these are the areas that you will see on the assessment and the reports. So they have a 10 relationship scale. It also does the scope personality profile, a couple map and family map. It tests the personal stress profile. It assesses the satisfaction of the relationship, the commitment level of the relationship, and also for certain relationships, we need to look for abuse and substance abuse. So we're going to go through and look at a couple of these a little bit closer to understand them a little better. All right, so the 10 relationship scales. I'm going to go through each one of the 10 and kind of go through what we're looking for there, or what the assessment is looking for. Number one would be idealistic distortions. That's kind of a hard word. Idealistic distortions, which measures the extent to which a person distorts the relationship in a positive direction. So we might worry about that when we have a couple coming in and they're doing an assessment. Some people are very honest and they're very open and they're just real raw about what they feel and think and their ideas. And sometimes we have people being unrealistically positive about the relationship. Yes, everything's great, everything's wonderful. So they have actually built in some concepts and ways to adjust that. If somebody is appearing to be overly positive, they have ways to actually adjust that, which I thought was really good because you do really want honesty. Like, we can't really help these people if you're distorting what's actually the reality of the relationship. So, number two is communication, which is the capacity for the couple to clearly convey the needs in the relationship. So, that's really important because some people are very easy, it's very easy for them to say, hey, this is what I need. And some people, it's not so easy for them to say. So they just keep it inside, and that can cause a lot of frustration in the relationship is their needs are not being met because they don't fully know how to, express those needs. Number three is conflict resolution. We know that's super important in marriage, in relationship, really in general, but definitely in marriage. So this is going to assess the couple's ability to discuss and resolve differences. Pretty self-explanatory, but it's very important. Number four, their partner style and habits, which that's going to measure the person's satisfaction with the personal characteristics and the habits of their partner. You would think by this point you're in premarital counseling and you would know the style and the habits of your partner, but you'd be surprised sometimes when we go in and we start looking at this, it's not always so clear and cut. Financial management. Pretty self-explanatory. The couple having realistic financial plans and agreement. So financial management isn't just paying bills. It's not just the person that's taking the finances and applying it to their obligations. It's being able to actually have a realistic financial plan and an agreement on how we're going to spend our money, what we're going to do with the money, what does that look like. It's very important. It can cause a lot of conflict in the marriage, the finances. Very important. Leisure activities. We don't think, you don't think about these things sometimes as being an issue in marriage, but it can be because this is going to measure the couple's satisfaction with the amount of quality of leisure time that they spend together. Some people like a lot of togetherness, and some people like a lot of, autonomy and separation and being able to do some of their own things. So we need to be able to come to an agreement on what that's going to look like within their relationship. Of course, sexuality and affection. Very important. So this is also going to measure The couple's satisfaction with the affection level in the relationship, including their ability to discuss sex. It's very important. This also is can be a very contentious area of the relationship, and we need to make sure that everybody's ideas about what that looks like is on the same page. Family and friends. Important to have family and friends in your lives, but when you are taking two people that have different families, different friends, and you're putting them together, sometimes that can cause a little bit of conflict. So this is going to measure the relationship satisfaction with their relatives and friends, including the amount of time and the effort that they spend in those relationships. You're taking two family of origins and trying to put them together, and sometimes they're not the same. You may have one family that spends a lot of time together and they're okay with this, and then that partner's relationship with their family may be more, not as much quality time together. They spend less time and they're okay with that. So we have to figure out how we're going to blend these together. All right, so relationship roles. We are living in a culture today that the relationship roles are changing really quickly. 20, 30, 40 years ago, they were very clear cut. It was more the woman stays at home, she takes care of the children, man goes to work. We are not living in that day and time anymore. So this scale is important because we need to figure out what is that going to look like in the relationship. And every relationship is different. There isn't so much of a norm anymore. It's what is working for that relationship. Now we have men that are doing more things at home, women are in the workplace, so we definitely need to get on the same page of what that looks like. Very important, spiritual beliefs. This is something that, especially in premarital counseling, needs to be discussed. You'd be surprised how many people aren't having that discussion. They're not talking about what their spiritual beliefs, or lack of, are in a relationship, and so then we have these two people that are trying to come together in something that's very important, a huge part of their life, and you'd be surprised that they haven't had that conversation with each other. How are we going to raise our kids spiritually? How are we going to deal with our finances spiritually or not? And so this is something that definitely in premarital counseling needs to be discussed, and then once you're already married, we could still discuss how we can make that work. All right, so another area of assessment is the scope personality profile. This one is going to deal with the social, the ability to change, how they organize things, how much they value being able to be a people pleaser, not people pleaser, and then their emotional steadiness. And you can kind of see here it's we have different personalities, and we need to be able to identify with those personalities. Sometimes we have extroverts, we have introverts, we have people that are dependable, people that are open to change, easygoing, agreeable, competitive, like you can see here. These are all characteristics that you're going to see within people and relationships, and sometimes those characteristics can go together well, and sometimes they are challenging. So if we know this ahead of time, we can say, hey, this is how we are. How can we take these characteristics and make them work better? So it's definitely important, understanding your partner. This is just taking you, might understand them on a surface level, but this is going to take you to a whole other level of understanding who your partner actually really is. All right, so the next area of assessment is couple map and family map. So Preparing to Rich utilizes the couple and family maps to assess the two dimensions of closeness and flexibility in a couple's relationship, and also their family of origin. So the closeness and flexibility is how close, again, we talked about spending time together, how close do we want to be? And then the flexibility is how easy can we adapt to change? When things come in, how easy is it for us to make those adaptations to what's happening around us? All right. Another area of assessment is their personal stress profile. So using the personal stress profile helps the couple assess their current level of stress and identifies their most stressful issues. We are living in a very fast-paced, quick, go society. There's less room for decompression in your life, and stress is one of the areas that we see in relationships that brings a lot of contention. Is everybody is stressed. Each partner is stressed. They're dealing with their own levels of stress, and they're also dealing with how they deal with that stress. And so learning how your partner deals with stress, what they look like when they are stressed, is very important to creating an atmosphere that allows for everybody that space And then also, how can we help each other? What does that look like? Satisfaction. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's the individual relational satisfaction overall is examined for the couples. Basically, how do we feel about this relationship? In premarital counseling, we see a little bit more, satisfaction. We're super excited. In marriage, sometimes 10, 15 years down the road, that may not be there as much as it was at the beginning. However, going through here, we can figure out where that level is instead of just not knowing where somebody's suffering through, not feeling satisfied in their relationship. How can we get back to where we were, closer to that place of feeling satisfied? Commitment. Each individual describes their commitment to the relationship and how they think their partner feels about commitment. It's very important, especially premarital counseling, like how committed are we to this relationship before we enter into this covenant, before we enter into this legal agreement with each other. How committed are we to that? And you would hope that everybody would be very committed, and we just need to make sure that everybody's on the same page. Another area of assessment is the abuse and substance abuse. Obviously, not every relationship is going to be dealing with this. However, some are, and it needs to be addressed. Something where we're going to assess the physical, emotional, verbal, and sexual abuse are examined for the couple. Also assessed are substance abuse issues and problematic sexual behaviors. If these things are present, they can cause extreme relationship stress. So if they are present, we need to know this ahead of time, or if we're dealing with a marriage couple, how do we navigate from that place? What are the goals of the program for the facilitator? So like I said earlier, the program is a facilitator couple relationship. So the person that is a facilitator is leading the program on how it flows, how it goes. They also are responsible for learning how to interpret the reports and then being able to give it back to the couples in a way that can be understood. So what's the facilitator goal? So they are gaining sufficient knowledge of the areas assessed. They're becoming skilled in reading and interpreting the facilitator's report and couple and family maps reports. And then they are to be familiar with the workbook for couples resource and adept at providing feedback and teaching their relationship skills. So they are basically a facilitator between the program and the couples. How does the program work and how can it work for the couple? That's going to be a huge help for the couples to be able to navigate through these reports that are very, very in-depth. And it's the facilitator's job to make this easier for the couple. So what are the goals for the program for the couple? So obviously we're going to strengthen our communication skills through our exercises and just understanding and awareness of what's going on in the relationship. And then we're also going to discover and manage major stressors. We're going to get ahead of these things, teach skills that if these things come into the marriage, what do we do? How do we deal with the stress? If we're in marriage, what has been the stress and how can we navigate that? We're also going to learn how to solve conflict. Major issue in marriage is learning how to solve the conflicts that arise that can lead us to divorce later on down the road. What is the couples workbook? Okay, so we've talked about this. We're going to assess. The couples are going to get online, do the assessment. There's going to be reports driven, and then the facilitator is going to interpret those reports. And then at the end of every report, the report gives an exercise at the bottom of that report and leads them back to the workbook on these are the exercises that can help in the areas that seem to be of concern. So Prepare and Enrich workbook contains more than 20 exercises that cover 14 different areas. The exercises were created to assist couples with issues raised by the assessment. So the 6 core areas that these exercises fall under are sharing strength and growth areas, creating a wish list using assertiveness and active listening, 10 steps to resolve conflict, couple and mapping your relationship, personal stress profile, identifying the most critical issues within the relationship, and personality exercise, which is your scope out your personality. So let's just look and see what these are quickly. All right, so the sharing strength and growth areas exercise. So the facilitator has the couple mark 3 strength areas, the most agreement and the most positive aspects of the relationship, and then the other 3 areas of growth that they disagree on in the 10 relationship scales that we talked about earlier. And then the couple is going to discuss these areas. So that one's pretty straightforward. But what we see in that one is we see where each couple, what the things that they see are important. And then we deal with just those. Creating a wish list using assertiveness and active listening. So in this exercise, the couple will each individually make a wish list of things that they would like more or less in their relationship. And so next, they take turns sharing their wish list with each other using assertiveness and active listening skills. We could assume that everybody knows what those are, but in a relationship, we see that sometimes we don't know what assertiveness and active listening is. So assertiveness is the ability to express your feelings and to ask for what you want in a relationship. And then in doing that, we need to have active listening, which is the ability to let your partner know that you understand them by being able to restate back to them what they just said. That means that you heard and understood what they said. All right, 10 steps to resolving conflict exercise. So this one, we're going to set up a time and a place for the discussion. So everybody, there's not going to be any distractions. We're going to say this is the time that we're meeting in a place that is good for both people. We're going to define a specific problem, and then each partner is going to list 2 ways that they contributed to that issue, and then each partner will also list 2 past attempts that they've used to resolve that issue unsuccessfully. And then we're going to brainstorm together 10 new possible solutions, and we're going to discuss and evaluate each possible solution and agree on one solution to try. So we're going to also agree how each partner will work towards that solution. And then an important step that we don't want to miss is we need to set up another time to discuss the progress to see if we've actually followed through, if we've actually been successful at implementing the resolution. Couple and family maps, flexibility exercise. So if one or both people find themselves inflexible or somewhat flexible, we're going to try one of these ideas to become more flexible. So what does that mean? So flexible, we're going to share leadership roles. We're going to put away your list and calendars because we're not being flexible. We're very rigid, so we're going to put away our calendars and schedules for a day. We're going to brainstorm a list of your roles and expectations for your relationship. You're going to switch roles with your partner for a week. Maybe not job, but maybe like in the house. So it's going to push that person to be a little bit more flexible and not so rigid in what they think, what they do, pushing them out of that place. And then we're going to do something really spontaneous. People that have a little bit more rigidity and are not as flexible, spontaneity is not something that they really operate in on a regular basis. So we're going to be conscientious and intentional about doing something out of the ordinary, spontaneous. If one or both people find themselves overly flexible, too much flexibility, not as much structure, or very flexible, we're going to try one or more of these ideas to add more stability. So we're going to add more consistency, tradition, and rituals. We're going to make a list of household tasks and who will do them. We're going to add more consistency to your parenting, and then we're going to keep promises that you made to your partner. So we're learning how to be somewhere in the middle between very rigid and flexible. That's where we really want to be. And so we're going to try to move either partner away from extremities of either one of those. Personality stress profile. Do you control stress in your life, or does stress control you? Stressors are events that cause an emotional and or physical reaction, but what is important is to be able to manage that many stressors in your life. Manage stress through prioritizing the issues that are most important and deciding which issues can be changed or resolved and which ones cannot. This exercise will help you focus on the high priority issues and those that can be changed. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up 4 issues that are the most stressful for each of you. Each partner is going to have 4 areas of stress. We're going to review each, and then we're going to put them into the 4 cells that we see over here. Put them into one of the boxes. And then this exercise is going to help you focus on the high priority issues that can be changed. So high priority and can be changed. And the question you're going to ask yourself is, what changes can you each make? Once we identify one area that we can change. So what they're really trying to avoid is, are you spending too much time on low priority issues? We're spending way too much time on things that they're difficult to change or can't be changed? Or can you accept and forget about that issue? Is that an issue that you just, we don't need to be spending time on that. So what it's doing is helping you figure out what area do we not need to spend so much time on. And if we do need to spend a little bit of time, how can we cope with that difficult to change? It's high priority, but we can't really change it. So it needs to go here. So we need to come up with a plan on how we're going to cope with that issue. But here, this is something that we can change, and it is high priority, and we need to figure out what changes that we need to make to change that. So it's just helping you not to be stressed about everything equally. We need to figure out what things need to be worked on right now. So scope out your personality exercise. So these are just, we'll go through every one of them, but these are just a couple discussions, and then this is dealing with your personality differences. So in what areas are your personalities similar? How can similarities be strengthened? How can your differences create problems? We're going to be looking at like how are our personalities causing issues between each other. And what we're also going to do is how we're going to deal with that. We're not going to try to change our partner's personality. We're going to remember the positive aspects of our partner's personality, and then we're going to be responsible for ourselves. It's very easy to look at other people and look at their characteristics, look at their qualities, and judge them and be critical. We're going to be responsible for ourselves also and be willing to look at ourselves. And then how can you use your personality and differences as a strength in your relationship? Instead of always looking at like, well, this characteristic causes problems, what are the areas that bring strength to our relationship, and just trying to reframe that and looking at the areas that can bring, good to the relationship. Okay, and as we end, the reason for the Prepare to Enrich program altogether is that there are more than 5 million couples that have prepared for marriage or enriched their relationship through taking the Prepare and Enrich assessment and working with a certified facilitator. It is one of the most widely researched assessment tools and is used for pre-engagement, premarital, marriage, and couples counseling. Through the program, couples are able to grow and strengthen their current and future marriages. So that's all I have for today. This program is amazing. I'm really excited about getting going with it and seeing exactly firsthand, not just looking at this information, but actually being able to implement it and see how it works and how it brings changes to people and marriages. And that's all I have. I appreciate everybody for coming and being willing to listen